The Living Clean podcast is not affiliated with Narcotics Anonymous, nor do we speak on behalf of NA as a whole. We are simply members sharing our personal experiences and perspectives in recovery based discussions. The opinions expressed here are our own and not those of Narcotics Anonymous as a fellowship. This is the Living Clean podcast. This podcast is not meant to replace meetings, sponsorship, step work, or service. This podcast is meant to be another tool in your recovery toolbox. Our guests are here to share their experience, strength, and hope with recovery through Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you for joining us. All right, welcome back to the Living Clean podcast. Mason S. and I'm an addict. We're back for another Living Clean book study tonight. And we are continuing in chapter 4. Tonight we're going to be under thrill seeking and adventure. Somebody has their physical book in front of them. Could you tell us what page that's on?
Page 95.
Page 95. I am on my Mac. It's page 38 on there. But I think that depends on how far you're zoomed out on which page number that is. So that's probably irrelevant. Page 95 in the hardcover book. Before we get started with our study, we're going to run through our introductions. I'm going to kick it over to the co-host with the most.
Francis Addict. My clean date is December 22nd, 1992, and my home group is You Are the Book Study in Chico, California.
Awesome. Thank you, Francis. And since you're right beside me, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Kayla S. I'm an addict. My clean date is 3/18 of 2020, and my home group is Newcomers here in Hole in Wall, Tennessee.
Thank you, Kayla. All right, next we're going to go to Shaun.
My name is Shaun. I'm an addict. My clean date is July 9th, 2024. My home group is Recovery First in the Cookeville, Tennessee area in the Upper Cumberland area.
All right, welcome, Shaun. Next is our man, Justin.
Hey, everybody. My name's Justin. I'm an addict. My clean date is November 24th, 2009. I attend meetings in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and my home group is Addicts R Us on Friday nights.
Welcome back, Justin. Next, we're going to go to Mallory.
I'm Mallory S. I'm an addict. My clean date is September 28th of 2021, and my home group is Survival in Florence, Alabama.
All right. Thank you, Mallory. Chris.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Chris A., addict, clean date, March 27th, 2018. Live in Huntsville, Alabama. Moody Mondays is the home group.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And last but certainly not least, Mo.
Hi, my name is Mo. I'm an addict. My clean date is September 2nd, 2024. I attend meetings in the East Bay area of California, and my home group is the It Works group in Alameda on Tuesday nights.
She's no longer our token newcomer. She's up over a year now.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, you did a fantastic job as the token newcomer, that's for sure. Big shoes to fill there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start on page 95, like we said earlier, and Shaun has volunteered to kick us off with the very first paragraph. Go ahead, Shaun, read that first paragraph for us, make a couple of comments.
Okay. Thrill seeking and adventure. Shaun, addict. Life after the obsession to use is lifted, many of us still seek a rush in other ways. The drive for excitement leads us to live full and exciting lives, rich with adventure. We are unafraid to take risks and pursue the opportunity to do the things we always wished we could. Sometimes, though, it seems like we just get strung out on our own adrenaline, whether it's gambling, sex, or creating drama in our lives. We can ramp up so fast that it's hard to scale back down. We may distract ourselves with risky behavior when we are trying to fill a void or block a feeling. It is up to each of us to find a balance between chasing destructive rush and really living our lives to the fullest. What really stuck out to me and how it pertains to me in my life today, long after the obsession to use this field, many of us still seek a rush in other ways. Um, when I was out there, and we all have our stories, and I don't need to go in detail with that, but like I get obsessed with like tattoos or going to meetings, and I guess it's a good obsession is going to meetings and reaching out to newcomers and other addicts. Again, this is my first time doing this, so I'm going to do the best I can. Um, I'm grateful for this opportunity. And as far as like chasing other rushes, and it's up to us to find a healthy balance. Like there's a lot of things, whether it's eating or shopping, sex, or the one that also stuck out to me was drama in my life. And I had some drama in my life today that I was a part of, that I created, and I learned very fast what was important and what was not important. So I got to find that healthy balance as far as like, love and tolerance and just loving people where they're at and trying to do the best I can do. You know, I'm grateful for this literature. Like I haven't really like I've read other NA literature, haven't really dove into the Living Clean. I've heard the podcast, but I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Shaun. Come on in, Justin.
Hey everybody, and thanks for that lead on that, Shaun. Man, I related to this part where it was talking about it seems like we're just strung out on our own adrenaline. It's like I wanted to die for so many years, and then I got clean, and it was like I want to live, but like that balance piece of figuring out like what's healthy and unhealthy was very difficult for me. Like sex is a very healthy part of being a human being, but I can turn it into something very unhealthy, right? And my disease always goes to like, I won't have sex at all. I'm just gonna never do that ever, or I'm like running to the wall. And so I really like this piece where it talks about at the very end of this paragraph, it talks about finding the balance between chasing destructive rush and just really living our lives to the fullest. Like I went through a divorce and I like ended up in this is just my story. I ended up in like sex clubs and shit like that just to be like, man, I'm going to be super open minded. And I got into like the kink community and I did that kind of stuff. And I wasn't like sharing about it in meetings to get attention. Like I was doing that. And I found that that's not really my thing, man. That's not my thing at all. And so I had to like scale it back and find like a healthy place for that. And it's the same thing with hiking and climbing and driving fast. It's like these things are good for me and they're also bad for me. I always take it back to like the 6th and 7th step of like finding that balance. So thanks.
Thank you, Justin. What's up, Francis?
One, it's always like a thrilling adventure to share after Justin. Like I dread that every time. And so I was kind of like thinking about when I was new, everything was exciting. Like going to my first concert clean. I didn't think that it was possible, like, and then I'd go with other people to like that are in recovery, and it was like I could remember the whole thing, or sex, like I could remember the whole thing, like all the things, in recovery, or like going out hiking, like all of it is, like was so new and exciting to do these things in recovery. Like then you end up getting strung out on stuff, but like but like there's stuff, there's new exciting stuff that happens to me today, like traveling to a new place, going to Alabama or to Mississippi, to those conventions. Those, like, that was exciting for me to meet new people and to participate in other people's recovery. And I have seen pictures of Mallory and Kayla, in their, like little parachute outfits. And I'm like, man, if they could do that, I could do that. That looks so exciting to me to do, like, and I'm a crusty old timer. So, like I see that in other people getting to do exciting stuff. And I look forward to that. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Francis. What's up, Mo?
Hey, yeah, I definitely relate a lot to this paragraph, mostly because I have a very active drive for excitement. Like I crave excitement, and I think I'm just easily bored. Also, I'm naturally drawn to environments that have like these big spikes in pressure and intensity, and that shows up in lots of different ways, from like working at startups to being somebody who performs on stage. My life before recovery was definitely really full of high highs and low lows. And I think, this reading mentioned getting strung out on our own adrenaline. I think that's probably where most of the lows came from. Like I would just get really burned out by my choices. Like the pattern for me was generally I would take on way more than I could reasonably handle, like some combination of like work and planning events and like social commitments, like too much. And then really overextend myself by making these superhuman efforts to deliver on everything, barely manage to not drop any balls, and then feel super entitled about completely checking out and like extreme rest because I earned it. And almost all the time, each of these times, I would build some new resentments in the process too, because like, look at all this amazing stuff I did. And it was really exhausting. But since I was able to pull it off almost every time, it was this like self-rewarding system of, I guess, dopamine and maybe pride and ego, and also like some like genuine accomplishment mixed into that, all of which resulted in me not learning my lesson for the next time. I just would continue trying to, like this reading says, fill a void or block a feeling. Like I think that's my active addiction was pretty much just a constant cycle of trying to fill voids and block feelings. And Justin, I'm glad that you brought up step 6 and step 7, because I think for me, it wasn't really until I got to step 6 that I was willing to look with any kind of depth at the feelings that I was attempting to block. And when I got to that step, and when I really started to do that work in earnest, that's when things really started to shift for me. And I feel like the program started really working in my life. That's all I got. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Mo. I'll make a few comments. I find whatever I go out and do that I enjoy, that's not going to be the last time that I do it. And if it's something that I've tried for the first time, like Francis brought up, going to concerts for the first time clean, after I went to my first concert clean, I proceeded with about 50 more in the next 3 or 4 year span of going to concerts. That's just what that's what I do. Not just concerts, but anything that I like. That's my pattern. I'm going to do it until I wear it completely out, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. Even though I do it to excess, I'm learning how to do it with balance. Because in the beginning, I'm going to take it completely over the edge. I'm going to wear it completely out. And then, so now if you look at, we'll just stay on the concert thing. If you look at concert attendance, it's went drastically down. Now, other things have taken the place of that. I mean, my wife and I just got through going to 2 consecutive football games 2 days in a row. We're not going to talk about the first one, but our team got the win today finally, so it wasn't a complete loss. But yeah, those are, and we have to learn how to balance that. We've been out of control with that here lately. We've been like one wasn't enough. We had to go to 2 major sporting events this week to fill to fill our need. But I think somewhere down the line we'll learn balance. I'm practicing. I'm learning how to fit these things into my life. But anyways, that's all I got. So we're going to move on to the second paragraph. My man Chris is going to take us or share with us on the second paragraph and make some comments.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Chris Benetti. surprising numbers of us are fond of extreme sports. A member who spends his weekend scaling glaciers said, in those moments when I'm really on the edge of life and death, when I'm not sure how I'm going to find my next foothold, then I feel present to the moment. I'm not thinking about the bills or the wife or the job, just how good it is to be alive and how I'm going to stay that way. Some of us take on competitive sports or bodybuilding and get really excited about what we are doing. We find a passion and commitment for these activities that seemed lost to our addiction. We have the freedom to try new things and take new risks. Yeah, and so I haven't made it to the weekend glacier scaling yet. I have that on my agenda. Um, but I am fond of some extreme sports. I kind of Googled and just looked to see what some are considered extreme. We're people who, I don't know, extreme doesn't always seem so extreme to us, and so I had to get a grasp of what some might call extreme. But I do know that recovery has afforded me the opportunity. The last line talks about to try new things and take new risks. And I first want to just say how thankful I am for other people in the program that are doing cool things. Because without other people doing cool things, then I wouldn't afforded myself the opportunity to look silly not knowing, because that's always been one of my things, right? Like I don't, the novelty, I guess you would say, of being inexperienced and new to something can be frightening. And so, I was really fortunate where I got clean at. We had a group that got all together and started getting into some pretty cool stuff, hiking and mountain climbing and stuff like that. And so we all got to grow and learn together. Um, you know, I do know that there's safer ways for me to be in the moment than on the side of a mountain. But there is something for me about being out there where the only thing that matters is like my next step and like what's right in front of me, because it's really easy for me to get distracted. I heard a lot of people talking about juggling a lot, balancing a lot, and so whenever I get out into the wilderness or mountains or wherever it is, it really simplifies things down. And I've definitely gotten into the whole trying to take care of myself and push that past reasonability. I mean, just this morning, I ended up running a half marathon, which was absolutely terrible and brutal. It was a trail run. But these are things that I get to be passionate about. One of the things I learned is that in recovery is it doesn't have to feel good for it to be good for me. And just like adventure, it doesn't always feel good the first time. I remember my first time out and about. It was brutal. It sucked, rained, wet, cold, and of course I went back to get some more. So I'll tell you this: the pain sucks a lot less when you get to do it with other people. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Come on, Mo.
Yeah, I don't know about extreme sports exactly, but I definitely relate to how invigorating it is sometimes to be fully present in a situation that feels at least kind of dangerous. Like I feel really alive in the moments where I have to be hyper vigilant and like 100% aware of all of my surroundings. This might not sound that extreme if you haven't done it, but I was a daily bicycle commuter in San Francisco for multiple years. And there's definitely a rush of like navigating the chaos of the morning traffic, like as everybody is rushing downtown trying to get to work. Taxis and buses and other cyclists and the wind. And it's just like there was no way that I was going to make it unless like my brain and my body were working together at maximum capacity, and it was so fun. I love snowboarding, honestly, for pretty similar reasons. What I'm learning to do today, though, is try to enjoy pushing myself some, but like to more moderate levels, and learning how to appreciate things like nuance and stillness and peace. Like this kind of thing did not really appeal to me before, but the longer I stay clean, the more I find myself drawn to that instead of the types of feelings that are like dialed up to 100. These days, like I'm happier kind of dialing things down. It's new. Thanks.
Thank you, Mo. What's up, Justin?
Hey guys, yeah, thanks Chris and Mo for jumping in on this. I mean, I I resonated with what both of you shared quite a bit. I don't know, this part where it says, when I'm not sure how I'm going to get my next foothold, then I feel present to the moment. And I look at like all of the extreme, like positive extreme behavior of like going out to Utah and being in the middle of nowhere and having to use like a GPS to find where we're going. And, me and my friends were like looking at it and it was like, look, it's going to be okay. It's 2025. There's only been 2 deaths here this year. It's not that bad. And it's like that sounds really extreme, but there's something that happens in that moment, right? And in that moment, like I get to practice. And when I come home, it makes me better at life with my children, right? It makes me realize, like, it's an extreme example of like, hey, every moment matters, every step matters. It all culminates to this greater thing. And then I come home and, my 4 children, they just don't bother me as much. They just don't. They bring joy. Like I never thought I would be able to say like sitting there with a crying child made me happy. And not like in a sadistic way, but like in a like I'm here and present and alive. And when I challenge myself outside of my normal day-to-day life, I find out the different things that I'm actually capable of. And I learned that in the steps, right? Is that we do things that are hard so that we can do other things that are hard. And like, so we can get better at hard things. And then they don't become so hard. They become life. I'm an addict and I catch on fire and I act like everything is an assault to me. And those moments help me realize it's not an assault, it's nature. And then I come home and it's like, it's not an assault, it's life. So that's what I resonated with. Thanks.
Love it, Justin. Thank you, man. What's up, Francis?
I don't know that I ever got fond of extreme sports, but I had at one point started a hiking group. And there's a group in San Jose called Wild Recovery, and like they do camping and they just hike to these crazy places. And I'm like, I want to do that. And so we had a hiking group, and it was hiking and camping, and it was up here. It went for about 10 years. Everybody wanted to hike, but nobody wanted to do the planning for it. Everybody wants to have meetings, but they don't want to do the service. It's the same type of a thing with the rest of NA. But like what's really kind of cool is like when I drive different places, like there's mountains on both sides of the valley. I drive across the valley, and I've like been to the top of all these peaks, like, and I know the names of them, or into the gorges, like there's like you can see the different V's in the mountain ranges. I'm like, oh, I've been into Tombs Gorge, or I've been up to the top of Sawmill Peak, and all these different places. And like, and NA allowed me to do that just because I allowed myself to, like to just engage in something creative. And so it's one of those things. And then when I'm out there, like like I'm like exercising, I'm in nature, like great outdoors, good orderly direction with a group of druggies, like it triples up on that, like that God thing. And I can't even tell you, like I've been in a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous at the bottom of the middle fork of the Feather River, and a bald eagle flies through, and like on like right on the like on the surface of the water, and everybody's just like blown away by those type of experiences. And it's like, and only like it could have happened in a situation like that. So I don't know, like it's not extreme, but it's creative. And I think Narcotics Anonymous allows us to participate in our recovery in creative ways outdoors, and doing different things. And I saw pictures of Chris, like I'm like scouting out like who would be good for this episode. I saw him in pictures in nature, and I also saw some stuff that Justin was doing, and so there were some handpicked people for this episode. Thanks.
Thank you, Francis. What's up, Shaun?
Yes, what stuck out to me the most was I have the freedom to try new things and take new risks. I lived in Portland, Oregon for 17 plus years, and I had a sponsor named Matt. He got me into, he was always hiking and stuff. And I moved from a big city in Miami, Florida, moved out complete polar opposite of the country to raise a family. And he was big into hiking. He got me into, I started bicycling all over Portland, commuting all over the place. I sold my car before I moved out there. And he inspired me. I got tried new things like kayak and rafting, and I mean the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast, a lot of great places to do the outdoors. I never, skied or anything or went snowboarding like a lot of people out there. But because of staying clean and being a part of NA, it's given me the opportunity to do things that a big city kid never had the opportunity to do. And I caught myself like some nights not sleeping in a tent, but just sleeping in the sleeping bag out in the open, just admiring the beautiful stars and the redwood trees and evergreens, and just being a very appreciative of life and all that I've accomplished, and appreciating the outdoors and what my higher power has given me today. And another part too, it says that, where is it? I think it says, um, we find a passion and commitment for these activities that seemed lost to our addiction. How that pertains to me today, like, dude, I'm almost 45 and I'm going back to get my GED, and it's all because of NA. I get to do stuff like that. Like, I have a kid that I had abandoned, and she graduated high school, and it inspired me to do something with my life. And I'm so grateful for NA in these rooms that it's, like I said, I'll go back to, we have the freedom to try new things and take new risks. Like, I go hiking with my mother all the time to the waterfalls in various parts of Tennessee. I love hiking. Hiking is amazing. It's a great way to get grounded. Sometimes I'll take my shoes and socks off and just get grounded with the earth and just really appreciate what my higher power has given me, and the new opportunities in the life that I never thought I was ever worth living. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Shaun. What's up, Kayla?
So I was just sitting here thinking about the most profound sentence in this paragraph to me is we have the freedom to try new things and new risk. And why that's so important to me is because I limited myself, before I got clean. Like I didn't feel like I was capable of doing new things or trying new things, or if something felt good to me, I felt ashamed because I didn't feel like I deserved good things. So like the last 2 years have been all about self-discovery for me and finding my foothold and doing things and doing the next thing that makes me happier, excited. Because when I first got clean, if you liked it, that's what I was going to like. And now I'm finding my own voice and doing things that I'm like, maybe I don't like that, or maybe I do like that. And it's kind of like somebody said, I went skydiving, I went kayaking for the first time. If my husband has this great idea and he thinks that I'm going to like it, I can say, no, I'm not doing that. And I think, that's been so profound for me, is to be able to say that it's okay to try new things and not look dumb. Because that was really a big fear for me, is I was so scared of what people were going to think about me. If, like, for example, if I flipped over in my kayak, was everybody going to laugh at me? And, I didn't flip over and nobody laughed at me, and I had a great time. So I'm really excited that I'm getting to try new things and find out who I really am. That's all I got.
Thank you, Kayla. I think I remember you laughing at me when I flipped my kayak over, though.
I tried to save you. I couldn't get back to you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next paragraph. Justin, would you take that for us? Make some comments?
Yeah, sure can. Many of us are partial to motorcycles, and a similar impulse may lead us to ride. We like the sense of freedom, as well as the power and the risk. Some of us drive our cars very fast and share that excitement and share that the excitement is not just going fast, but knowing we're getting away with something. We may think this doesn't apply to us until our sponsor suggests that we try obeying all traffic laws for a week, just as in an experiment. While some of us find acceptable ways to chase the rush throughout our recovery, others find the need settles down after a while, or the wreckage we create just gets to be too much. Yeah, I like that. I love the living clean and how we use like these generalized examples, and I can apply this into a bunch of other areas of my life, right? Because I don't drive a motorcycle, but I will get on a scoot. Like I'll get on a Lime scooter and I'll do shit that I should not do. Like I will not obey traffic laws and think that I'm special. And that has not caused any chaos for me. But here's the point of it is that when it says a sponsor, right? It says a sponsor may say, "Hey, you should take a look at this." That's why it's so important that I talk to people, whether it's a scoot or like a ton of other areas of my life, right? That I can't really jam into 2 minutes, but like a ton of other areas of my life that it's like thrilling and fun. And I have another human being in Narcotics Anonymous because I talk to people on a regular basis and I have people in my support group and share honestly in meetings that can be like, and I don't mean stick in the mud, like, scooters are bad. Like, I mean, like somebody that can be like, hey, maybe we take a look at this, right? And I have plenty of areas. I think at like 3-4 years clean, everyone had to raise their hand and tell me when I was fucking up, right? And now I'm able to have relationships with people where I'm able to figure out I'm messing up before everyone has to throw their hands up and start throwing flags at me that like, hey, you're gonna crash your life. And I like how this was phrased of that, like someone in our life, in this case, a sponsor, may say, why don't we see how it feels just as an experiment to not act out on that character defect? Let's find out whether or not you really have, why don't you stay for a little bit, like an early recovery? Why don't you sit down and see whether or not your life gets better, removing this thing from your life? So, thanks.
I love that, Justin. It's kind of like where the old AA people would say, why don't you, if you don't think you're an alcoholic, why don't you try to drink like a gentleman for a little bit? Why don't you go a little bit without this this character defect in your life and see if you can control it. And if you're having trouble setting it aside, or you're saying things like, "Oh, I can stop this anytime I want to," then maybe it's something we need to take a look at, and that's just some examples of the addiction going much further than the substances that we use. What's up, Francis?
I I don't know if I'm going to score any points, but it says many of us are partial to motorcycles. I am not partial to motorcycles. I think. Uh, I think they're great. I guess unless you're showing up late to the meeting or leaving early, so you can make an announcement that you've arrived. But like for a long time, I really disdained, like the whole motorcycle culture in Narcotics Anonymous, and but I don't disdain it anymore. Like I get why people love it. Like I hear them talking about, uh, like writing, and it gets them out of their head. And there's stuff that I've done that have made me feel that way. Hiking did that for me, like getting out in nature, and there was nothing quite like it. So I could have some empathy for, like it's a form of meditation for people. Uh, what like I've known some real bikers, like all of a sudden you're clean and you're getting a motorcycle and you're a tough guy, like the tough guys aren't like acting like tough guys, like they're the quiet guys are the ones that are dangerous as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know, I really like people that are into bikes, like that aren't trying to be something that they're not, like those are like the real genuine people that love motorcycles, and they're not trying to be, like fake bikers. So I don't know. I hope I didn't like offend any fake bikers out there, but I can appreciate like getting out of yourself by going on a ride. Sure. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Francis. Let's go over to Chris.
Yeah, Chris Addict. So I definitely ended up doing the biker phase. I think got into that early relationship, 6 months clean relationship, and got out of it and was looking for thrill and adventure. And ended up getting a bike. So there's a couple things, I did want to say. It's important to make sure that you have and understand what bikes are about and how to ride them. And I had the NA folks take me in a parking lot and just really teach me how to ride. I probably should have took a Harley Davidson class, but nevertheless, I got out there with them and they taught me how to ride. Now, the reason I say that is because of my adventure and wanting to, get out and about, people die on them all the time, literally all the time. And so, kind of like it talks about at the end of that paragraph, uh, the need settles down after a while. And so for me, I was one of those. I was actually looking to see what the saying is, right? The saying of, hey, there's two types of people, right? Those that basically, if you ain't laid a bike down, just keep riding and you will. And so for one point, I was trying to, get comfortable, and I got comfortable and then realized I didn't want to do that anymore. And there's a lot of people, still have a lot of people that ride bikes, and nothing against them. But man, I definitely went at it full speed and enjoyed it for a very short season and realized I ain't cut out for it. I'm not a tough biker kid. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. What's up, Shaun?
Yeah, I really dig that paragraph. I'm not partial to bikes, motorcycles, but I am partial to side by sides. And I remember getting into a side by side. For those who don't know what a side by side is, it's like to my opinion, it's like a glorified, uplifted, like big tires, and it's like a go kart almost. And my sponsor lives on 65 acres. And I remember getting in the side by side with him, not realizing there were seatbelts, and we're going over these big hills and stuff. And I was getting this adrenaline rush. And then I was like, "Isn't there a seatbelt?" And he started laughing. And I was like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my life if I fall out of this thing. And it's like, isn't it funny how we've grown in this program? And I just started laughing. I was like, what do you say? What do you mean? And he's like, well, you had no problem putting certain substances in your body, in your arm, and like taking part of like unhealthy behaviors, but you get into a side by side, you go for one bump. It was a one bump. And I started like franticking about my life, like, oh my God, I really care about my life now. And um, that's all I got to say about that. I had to share about that because it was the first realization I had being in recovery this last time around. I had 6 months at the time, and I was just truly grateful for my life and realizing I put my body through some harm during some times, but now I'm just enjoying life to the fullest, even riding side by sides and going over big bumps and having a great time with my sponsor. Thanks.
Thank you, Shaun. All right, we're going to move on to the next paragraph, and I believe Mo is going to take number 4 for us.
Yes, thank you. Sometimes, without an outlet for our energy, we just sit in our own anxiety. It can be surprising to learn that anxiety comes from the same source as our enthusiasm. It can be useful energy if we channel it, or it can be incredibly destructive. The same power that fuels our destructive impulses can fuel our excitement, creativity, and ambition. It can drive us to adventure or chaos. Like so much of what we uncover about ourselves, it can be an asset or a defect, depending on how we use it. Wow, this is not a long paragraph, but I feel like there's a lot here. I'll just start from the top. Sometimes without an outlet for our energy, we just sit in our own anxiety. I do not really think of myself as someone who is prone to anxiety. I feel a lot more prone to depression. Not that you have to pick one or the other, but that's just what feels true to me. So like, I have a lot of energy. Like I naturally just have a lot of energy to give. And if I don't have an outlet for it, like I sit in my own emptiness. Like I sit in my own like stagnant lack of direction, and it feels really awful. And it's a very dangerous place for me to be. Not fun, dangerous. It's unhealthy, dangerous. And so it's a little bit like when I first read this, I had a little bit of like a resistance to this idea that, you know, anxiety and enthusiasm kind of come from the same source. But, you know, this paragraph closes with, like so much of what we uncover about ourselves, it can be an asset or a defect depending on how we use it. And again, that brought me back to the work that I was doing in step 6. And I went and looked at my journal, and one of the cool things that, you know, that I was doing in step 6 was like making all these little diagrams. Like I was looking at, this was prompted by a question in my step work in step 6 that was about like parts of me that I like, but what might be defects, and me kind of like mulling over like, I don't even really like the word defect, you know? So I was like, what does this even mean? And how can I make this make sense for myself? And like where I landed with it is that I think most traits like are neutral-ish. And they all probably have a sweet spot somewhere like around the middle range that's really useful. But in the extreme areas, one way or the other, like that's where there's what I'll say defective expressions of that particular trait, right? So like at the very low end or at the very high end of the way that trait is expressed, that is something that I would consider like a defective expression of that trait. So I went and looked at all these like nerdy little diagrams that I had drawn for myself in my journal. And I found one of the traits that I looked at. This is a thing that I like about myself. And I'm like, okay, is this defective? And it was drive, like it was enthusiasm. So I was looking at my own internal drive and like sense of enthusiasm. And dialed all the way down, I had lifeless. Okay, not what I want. Dialed all the way up, I had desperate and anxious. So it turns out this reading is not that much different than where I landed. But like what I think is cool is like around the center point. So like a little bit like left of center, I'll say. So if it like if lifeless is 0 and desperate and anxious is 10, let's just say, like to help sort of visualize this, I had around 4 of drive and enthusiasm, around 4 agreeable. Not bad. Like that feels like left of center of like of drive and enthusiasm for me, but like agreeable is a trait that I would like to be an agreeable person. Dialed a little bit up from center, maybe at like a 6, was passionate. I'm like also good. So like there's this whole range for me that I was envisioning is from like 4 to 6. That's like this is actually like a really great positive expression of drive and enthusiasm. But if you start to dial it up a little bit more, I had impatient, right? Dial it up even more than that. And then we're getting into, you know, this red zone of anxiety. So I do think it's really true that a lot of these traits, you know, including enthusiasm, can be an asset or a defect, depending on, you know, how much we dial up or dial this stuff down. Again, like to me, it doesn't feel exactly like when I don't have an outlet for my anxiety that it's or I mean when I don't have an outlet for my energy rather that it's anxiety. But in going back and looking at my own step work, like that's how it shows up. It's like I'm so desperate in my frustration of being stagnant that maybe it actually is anxiety. So I'll leave it there and open it up. I'd love to hear from some other folks about this paragraph.
Awesome. Thank you, Mo. What's up, Francis?
You know, I saw Mallory unmute. I've been kind of waiting for her to share anyway. So go ahead, Mallory.
Mallory, I'm an addict. I'm not sure how to raise my hand and do all the things, guys. Technology is hard for me. But so like I've talked to several people about me doing this week. And I've read this section of the book over and over again, trying to just figure out, kind of just feel it out and see what my impressions are. And the 2 paragraphs that stuck out to me were 4 and 6. But with 4, I am someone who has struggled with anxiety and severe anxiety my entire life. I didn't always know it was anxiety. So the part where it says, it can be, the last part of the sentence is, it can be useful energy if we channel it. Like that was very important for me to learn. And it took some time for me to get there. And I'm still not always great at it. But channeling my anxiety into something positive. And again, it's kind of already been shared with step 6 and 7, and is it an asset or a defect? And I kind of agree. All things can have pluses and minuses to them. But once I started choosing to live life, anxiety kind of turned into enthusiasm naturally, and I don't have to make as much of an effort for it anymore. So if I just choose to stay positive in life, my anxiety levels seem to go down until I'm speaking in a public forum. And that's all I got for right now.
Love it. Good
I know.
stuff.
I'm so thrilled to hear from you, Mallory. Francis Addict. And I well, first of all, I really like Mo's drive, and and that was the thing that she approached me and Mason at the Northern California convention with all of her energy, and we're like, oh my God, we'll get you on the podcast right away, and like now I have this guy Travis that he went out to the Howl with the squad and all that other stuff, and he was telling me that Mo gave him the secret to like podcasting as the token newcomer. It's like you don't have to ask a lot of questions, but you just have to ask a really good question. And like he was in with us the other day, and he dropped a good question, and he told me the secret that you gave him the secret. Just bring one really good question, and that'll make all the difference. And so I have a creative drive. And like when Mason started kind of engaging me about coming on the podcast, I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know if I have the bandwidth to do all that. Like, you don't want to unleash the obsession, like the creative obsession to program stuff. And he did. And here I am. And I fucking obsess on this shit. Like, it is like an outlet for my creativity. And I love it. And I like Douglas is pressuring Mason to put out more episodes. I'm like, yes, go Douglas, go. We need more episodes. And Doug and Mason is like real steady. He's like, no, we only need one a week. Like we want to be consistent. And I'm like, okay, I still have that many ideas about like episodes that we could do more than one, but like he's like pacing me and trying to string like the ideas along slowly. Like pace yourself. There's plenty of time for all. I'm like, they're dying. The old timers are dying. We got to get them on now. But I think it is a nice channel for me, and I appreciate being able to do it. Thanks, Mason.
Yeah, it's funny how you worried about your bandwidth, and turns out I don't have enough bandwidth to keep up with you. All right, we're going to move on to the next paragraph, which is number 5, I believe, and Kayla's going to take that one for us.
I'm Kayla, and I'm an addict. When I found myself in self-centered fear, said one member, I would take risks that could ultimately cause me to lose everything. I was living on the edge clean, so I could feel something other than the abyss of not using. I filled the void with things like gambling, shopping, anything that made me feel powerful when I am powerless. Now that I can see myself more clearly, I realize that I have to be more aggressive with treating my disease, taking its deadly nature into account. And I think for me, how I take that is when I am in my self-centered fear, I tend to hibernate, and I tend to not go to meetings, and I tend not to reach out to my sponsor and I'm not active in my steps or in my recovery as I should be. And that's a dangerous place for anybody that is like us. So I think that's how I can ultimately cause myself to lose everything, because one day it could get to a point to where I think using is a good idea. And I was trying to sit here and think about, like, from the time I got clean to what it's like now, like how thrill seeking and all of this has changed for me. And, when I first got clean, I had caused so much damage in my life, and I had so much wreckage to clean up with my kids and not having custody of them. And the person that had custody of them, I looked at them as an enemy, like, how dare you do this to me? And that's the chaos that I thrived in. Like that was my thrill seeking because I fed off of that. I fed off of the negativity. And then, like, when things started to pan out and life started to smooth out, I became a goal oriented person. Like, I knew I wanted to get my kids back. I knew that the job that I have wasn't where I was going to be. I knew that I wanted to get out of the state that I lived in. And I knew that I wanted to get married. And it was like each step I got closer to achieving all of the goals. So then, when everything that I had set out for myself was achieved, that's when I felt like life was boring and like, now what? And I started seeking all this thrill stuff. And what I found out, and it was when I was skydiving when I found it out. I was up at the door and I looked down and the world seemed so small and it was like, wow, this is really what my higher power gets to see. Everything seemed so quiet in that moment. And it wasn't that I was missing the thrill, it was that I was missing the full connection with my higher power. So now that I have learned how to fill my cup up, I'm able to feel my higher power when I'm doing these things that are exciting to me, like going hiking. Like, I don't do it because, I like to get all hot and sweaty. I do it because I like to feel that connection with my higher power. Like, I'll probably go skydiving again, and it's because the world shuts off and I get to feel it at the peak. And I think that's really just where I'm at with things, like learning how to be connected at all times. And that's really all I got.
Thank you, Kayla.
You're welcome.
All right. Yeah, I'll jump in for just a second. You know, living on the edge clean is something that I've done, I think, since I've been clean. Uh, and I noticed this is like the third time that it's mentioned gambling, like it's something that's just throwing it like a dart being thrown at me. Because look, here, face it. Let's face it. Something I've always enjoyed. I kind of grew up around it, and it is nothing that I am condoning. That's for sure, because it is absolutely what is being described in here. It's just like a drug, man. It gives you these brief periods of feeling powerful, like when you come home with a wad of money this big, and then when you go on a losing streak for about, you know, 7, 8 weeks or a year, uh, you feel about this big. You feel tiny. And what's funny is I'm still at this point of not figured out what void I'm trying to fill with that. It's probably a lot of what Kayla just described. It's probably what's missing. I said if anything's missing from my program, it's a deeper connection with a higher power. And that's but I couldn't say that for sure. I don't know what the void is and why I like to do those sort of things. It mentioned shopping. Like, I'm not a big shopper. Like, I'm a let's go find what we're looking for and buy it. But when I do that, guess what I want? I want the best thing. You know how I judge whether I want to buy something or not, or the quality of the product, how expensive it is. Like, to me, if it costs more than the other one, then it's better. So I buy that one. Instead of doing some research and finding out, I've people have told me how silly I am for that sort of mindset, because there are some products that are just as good for a lot better deal. I've never been like that. I've never been a coupon shopper type of person. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's just probably a lot of it's laziness. But I guarantee you, if you look at it deeper, there's probably something there that says that when you see me, I want you to see that I got the best thing, you know, um, which we all know how unhealthy that is, So I don't know. This whole section, I loved how Justin described it as how to use these generalized topics, but you can use so many different pieces of my life in each one of these. Like, I'm not a motorcycle rider either, but I started seeing different areas. Like, it didn't relate to obeying traffic laws, but it was something completely different. I find this whole book fascinating. So we're gonna go over to Shaun now, see what he's got.
Thanks, man. I really enjoyed the last couple shares on this paragraph. This paragraph is really stuck out to me more than the other ones, like taking risks. I'm that kind of addict when I was out there that, I didn't really care what I did, as long as if I got my fix, I was good. In recovery, I each time I've gone to Vegas or Puerto Rico, I gambled. And the first time I was in Vegas, I lost everything in 5 minutes. Second time in Vegas, the first 30 minutes, I made everything back within the first 30 minutes. And the slot, I learned the keys are the slots by the door because they draw you into the casino because they got big wins. And I learned to cut myself off, which is really weird. I made enough to cover my whole trip and everything. But the shopping, when I got clean this last time, I've never been a coupon person either. But I bought a $300 Michael Kors watch I'm wearing right now, and to me that was my come up watch. The addict I was, I lived in doorways, ate out of garbage cans, and it was like buying this watch was to prove to myself that I can have anything I want for the most part, as long as I work hard for it, do it honestly, I can have whatever my higher power will provide for me. And it really everything stuck out. I like the part where it says I realize I have to be more aggressive with treating my disease. So I've learned to not shop for 15 pairs of Jordans and a $300 watch. I haven't bought anything. I've invested in my recovery because when I bought that watch, I got yelled at by a person with time, and they're like, once you invest in your recovery, right now you got like 60 days and you bought a $300 watch. Like that's an eight ball right there. And I thought about that. I kind of took offense to it for a second, but then I got over that real quick. Um, you know, uh, I gotta learn that even with shopping and buying 15 pairs of Jordans, I have a shoe connection that goes all the way from Knoxville to Cookville, and he delivers me shoes, Jordans, authentic Jordans, right out of the trunk of his car. And man, I find plugs everywhere. And I've learned to tone that down with my higher power and sharing in meetings and talking about my random addictions and stuff, and just that adrenaline. Like I love adrenaline. Like I would love to go skydiving one day. I'm afraid of heights, but I love roller coasters, and I'm probably sure I would love skydiving. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Shaun. Here's the thing about gambling. I can tell you for sure. It will fool you just like any substance that we use. Like for me, I went on a streak in recovery where I won every single time I gambled for a whole year. And I thought it will never change. It's because I am so superior to the people that I gamble with, and I am so much better than all of you. I've got all the systems figured out. I'm so smart. I've read all the books. And then I proceeded to like lose every single time I played for like the next 18 months consecutive after that. And it's just the ultimate kick in the ass to show you that if our obsession is kicked in into something negative like that, there's no winning. There's no winning, because here's the thing: my obsession is stronger than the discipline it requires to be good at the thing that I like to do. Like it, I can't get enough. So I'm not okay with winning a little small amount. I want all of it. I want it all. And that's why it never works. It never works for me in the long run. It's a lie, and it's bullshit. You know.
It
Yeah,
worked in Tupelo.
it worked in Tupelo. Yeah. It works every time until it don't. What's that off of Anchorman? 60% of the time it works every time. Okay, we're going to go to the next paragraph. Mallory's going to take us home. Mallory, would you read the last paragraph and make some comments, please?
Mallory, I'm an addict.
Hey, Mallory.
At some moments, it may feel like we are holding on to our recovery with both hands. There are times when we just bulldoze through an obsession to use or act out in some other way. There are times when fear of our disease leads us to shut down, resist change, or fear novelty because anything that takes us out of our routine might put us at risk. But recovery doesn't always have to be about ducking. When we know our lives are in the care of a loving power greater than ourselves, we are able to let go. Some of us express this very literally, going skydiving or bungee jumping as a way to really step out. For most of us, though, letting go is a little less dramatic. We start to experience life as an adventure and apply that willingness to try in other areas of our lives. So for me, this paragraph kind of like looking back on the couple years I've been around, I feel like it's just kind of explains my progression thus far. And I'm not really crazy about the whole thrill seeking label. Because I don't actually think that's what I'm doing. I'm cool with the adventure part, right? And I think that came like where it starts to talk about when we know our lives are in the care of a loving power greater than ourselves. Once I really started to work on and develop my faith and put my trust in a higher power, I got curious. Having the faith and trust there in HP allowed me to take all of the fear that I have towards emotions and new things and turn it into curiosity. And for me, living life clean has given me the opportunity to have new experiences. So when I go to do something new, it doesn't have to, yes, I did the skydiving a few months back, but doesn't always have to be that extreme. Me reaching out to someone, being vulnerable and making the first call is something new and different for me. This past weekend, we had our anniversary gathering for survival, and there was 5 of us who went and picked out outfits for each other at a thrift store and just wore the outfits. That was something new. So for me, I prefer curiosity and adventure to the thrill seeking aspect of it, because if it's new to me, that's what I'm looking for. I want to experience the full range of emotions and feelings that HP is allowing me to embrace and not run from today. And that's what I got.
Love it, Mallory. Great job. What's up, Justin?
Hey everybody. So that was a really good subsection. And Mallory, I really resonated with what you were sharing about because that's my thing too, is finding that balance where it's not just like thrill seeking and adventure. It's about living, right? It's about and then finding what that really means for me. Like I'm not a huge fan of heights. Like I'm really not. I've done some insane things around heights. I've jumped out of a plane 3 times. I have been on mountains that like like it's cool. You'll be fine if you fall because you won't be in any pain, right? You'll just die. And it's like that's not my jam anymore. So I feel like I found like this balance of that. I don't want to just do it because it's cool, or I don't want to just do it so I can get that fix. I want to do it because I want to enjoy things and live. And this part where it says, when our lives are in the care of a loving higher power greater than ourselves, we're able to let go. Um, and some of us express this very literally by going skydiving or bungee jumping. I don't know about anybody else. I'm not like an excellent, like I'm not the perfect human. I am a human. I am not like defects completely gone. Um, I struggle, right? Like I struggle jumping out of a plane, and I struggle doing some of these things that are harder and super rewarding. And I think about like my work right now is going through this thing where it's been bought and everybody's kind of like freaking out, like really freaking out. Not just the people that normally freak out, like everyone's freaking out. And I'm in a spot where I'm not freaking out right now. I did, and then I got to this place of a loving higher power and feeling supported. And I'm not freaking out. And I have these normal people that are like, why are you so calm? Like, why is this? And I'm like, because what am I fucking ruin my day? You know, I used to, it depends on how close I get with somebody, but sometimes I'll be like, well, I'm not sleeping on a mat, you know, I'm not in an auxiliary gym. I didn't shower with a bunch of dudes today. I think I'm okay getting fresh caught salmon in the cafeteria, and I'm not gonna, Like, what am I going to lose my mind about? Right. I'm going to go get in my really nice van and drive home, like it's going to be okay. And I'll stop there. It's about finding that balance, dude. So.
Yeah, love that, Justin. What's up, Chris?
Hey, what's up, family? Chris Addict. So I had a very unique, well, it might not be that unique, but to me, it was a pretty interesting experience. So, I'm in Montana for a wedding and it was my birthday. And it's like, what do you want to do for your birthday? And so I was like, I want to go skydiving. And so I had the moment, and I don't know if anybody else can relate to where like I want to do something, but I don't really think about what it takes in order to do it. Like I just have this idea and I end up signing up for something. And so I'm getting in this plane and the guys are like, hey, the cool thing about this plane is you get to jump out of it, because I mean, look, the windows have got duct tape on them. I mean, it's a raggedy plane, and so, I committed. And so I'm in the back of this plane and we're going to take off. And I feel like in my spirit, like God, as I understand him, right? Like, hey, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. But I think there's like two things to that. First off, is a lot of times I have to start making the steps in order for me to get that feeling, right? For me, like I don't always just feel like I'm in the care of God. So I feel like I can just go and be and do. Like, we talk about you got to move your feet first and the faith follows. And so, I mean, I remember that feeling and it was so weird. It was a peace. It was a calm that was just a new thing for me. I'd never experienced it in my spirit in that situation before. Like I trust God with my life. Like I had been trusting God with my life and trusting God with the program, et cetera, et cetera. But like I trust in this one, I trust God with my life. And that's a product of the program. Um, and I just want to, circle back around to, I don't see myself as like a thrill seeker guy, but life is an adventure. And I didn't get clean to like weather away, like life is so beautiful. My eyes see colors I never saw before. I get to feel things I've never felt before. I get to go and I'm afforded to be able to go see and do things that fanatic like me didn't get outside of two areas, two area codes. And so, the life is definitely opened up for me. So anyway, that's all I got. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I hope I hope people is not taken away from this section as if some of these things are negative because it's not. I mean, it's the reason why we got clean, man. Like living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. I love to travel and to see new places. I had such a blast going out and hanging out with Francis in California, and Kayla and I have been everywhere, traveling and sharing experiences together, and that's really cool too. Sharing those experiences with somebody else. And we went to the How and we hung out for a little bit, but then we wanted to take advantage while we were there and go out and experience new things together. Like it was great. And I look forward to those moments. We just got off of a pretty cool experience. Even though we got our asses kicked on Saturday, but it was cool. It was cool to go to another environment and, have really good seats and, I love those things. That's what recovery's all about. I didn't get clean to sit in this house all the time, and feel like a prisoner. Like I'm taking or we're taking full advantage of being clean. It's great. What's up, Francis?
I like this last piece where it says this. For most of us, though, letting go is a little less dramatic. We start to experience life as an adventure and apply the willingness to try in other areas of our lives. And so I think that, like Mason and I went to Colorado and we went to a convention, and like Chris invited us to go support Ron doing a history presentation. We didn't I didn't go, I went to a history presentation and that's all I did at the convention. I didn't go to any other meetings. All we did was hang out, talk in a history. We drove up the Boulder to a car museum, Chris forced us into listening to like hours worth of AA history, but it was like a grand adventure. And it wasn't really going to a convention. It was hanging out with these guys that, like I've always wanted to hang out with. And like, so it was like letting go of what my expectations are of what a convention was going to be, and just being present was the adventure. But I think that the whole life piece is that, like, what is it, like going to work, and who am I going to engage with at work? Like, and what is it that I'm going to take away in every interaction that I'm participating in? I keep thinking about retirement. Like that is a letting go of a relationship to a job that I've had for 15 years. Like why is it that I'm holding on to it? Like, why am I struggling with retiring? Like I can, why don't I? And like the more I cling to it, like the more painful it is, just like everything else. Like a resentment that I cling to, the more painful it gets. uh like all of the things, like possessions, if I lose a possession and I'm like, oh, I lost it, like it's going to be painful. Like grief is painful the more I hang on to it. So it's all in letting go, and being okay with whatever comes next. Thanks.
Thanks, Francis. What's up, Mo?
And I also really like the line about letting go being a little bit less dramatic. That feels really true for me. I really appreciate through the work that I've done in this program that I can let go of the dependency that I had before on these really wild surges of excitement, neurotransmitters, however you want to label it. Like it had to be dialed up to an extreme level for me to feel anything. Like just for things to register to me, like they had to be at these really somewhere on the poles, really high or really low. Otherwise, like it didn't really land to me. Like I felt kind of numb to anything that wasn't extreme. I think that my biggest fear getting clean was that I was going to be bored to death. Like I was going to be miserable and it was just going to be like so painfully mundane, like just life. I remember just being like really terrified of how I was going to just trudge through this painful, boring existence. Because I think for me, like, yeah, like in order for me to be moved by anything, it had to be like something crazy. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to let that go. And, now adventure looks to me something more like, getting on a plane and flying out to Florida to go to a spiritual retreat and meet a bunch of people at the Howl. Like that was an awesome adventure. And I engaged in a number of different activities on the program at that event that were like, pretty vulnerable, heartfelt, I would say, like emotional activities. And I felt so much of it, like in my core, this subtle stuff, things that would have never landed to me before. And like, I have really come to appreciate that as part of my spiritual awakening. Like there's so much wider a range of things now that will move my spirit. That is really amazing to me. And it's such a gift to this program. And that's the kind of letting go that I am happy to do. And I'm anything but bored with it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mo. All right, Kayla, take us home.
All right, then. So I was sitting here and I was listening to everybody share about how, we get clean to live. And I was listening to how Mason was, talking about our life and how we get to do X, Y, and Z and how we've already done X, Y, and Z. And I was sitting here thinking about how when we first got together and we could only have hoped that we have the life that we have. And, the biggest part of my story is my kids and how I didn't have them and how I fought to get them. I didn't fight. We fought. We as a family in NA, we as in me and Mason, and we as in me and my higher power. And it's so crazy how I can sit here and think of that as an adventure because I didn't know how to be a parent. Mason damn sure didn't know how to be a parent. He didn't have no kids. He didn't have any experience. And it's so crazy to sit here and think about how, because of the program and our higher power, how we get to provide 2 kids that didn't ask to be here, that have been through hell and back because of me and my addiction. Like, we get to provide them a life that me or him, neither one had. And to sit here and think back of how big of an adventure it truly has been. You know, when I first got clean, I wasn't even allowed to be in a room with them alone because my disease got them high. My disease had them failed drug tests. And now, like, you know, my kids paint pictures of me and Mason, or they bring home schoolwork that involves us. And like, without the program, we wouldn't have built this foundation and been able to live an adventurous life. Like, my kids are bougie. My kids go on adventures that they probably shouldn't. And we get to provide that. And I think that is the biggest accomplishment that I can say that I have done in my recovery this far. That's all I got.
Boom. All right, folks, that's all we got. We'll be back next week with another episode. See you then.
Thank you for joining us on our Living Clean podcast. This is another platform that we can share our message of recovery, which is an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, lose a desire to use, and find a new way to live. Join that no matter what club. You can contact us through text. The number is 931-306-9364.